So, given that the year is about over, there should be no real big balance updates within the next few days before the beginning of the year. Going into this year, I thought it'd be kind of interesting if we start talking about potentially doing a tier list for all of the various classes. So I want to break it down into each role. So the first thing I want to talk about is, like, this list is going to be designed not just for high tier, like high diamond, masters, GM, top 500. This is not going to be for low tier, bronze, silver, gold. This is going to be across all levels. There'll be a little bit of, like, some high versus low conversation, but basically this is just ranking. This is also not my personal opinion on, like, for example, I think Reinhardt is a lot stronger. He is lower on the list. I play a high-level Reinhardt, so this is not based off of, like, my play skill. This is, like, as an overview right now. And I'm starting from top to bottom on tank. Sigma's the #1 tank in the game. I think every high-tier player that you have is going to tell you that Sigma is high-tier. Why Sigma is high-tier? First off, of all the tank characters, he has probably the best range-to-damage ratio. If you look, Orisa has the most range. Her damage output is not the same. At the same time, you look at, like, Roadhog and Reinhardt are both high damage. They don't have the range. Sigma is probably the best package. He has good range. He does good damage. He has good crowd control. He has a shield. He has ways to avoid damage while being shielded. His ult is nutty if you know how to use it properly. I think the real advantage to Sigma, though, is this right here. Sigma has the ability to both damage and shield at the same time. And I don't think a lot of people really understand, like, yes, his shield is underpowered, yes, his damage is underpowered if you look at a character like Reinhardt, but he can do both at the same time. Like, there is no reason why Sigma's not top-tier tank. At low tier, Sigma's going to be good. Sigma's going to win you games. At high tier, Sigma's going to carry you games. And in addition to this, Sigma also has the ability to pair well with every other tank in the game. I think probably the worst tank you could pair with Sigma would probably be a Winston. And even then, that's not a bad matchup to have. So Sigma is the #1 tank in the game. Period. High, low, mid, doesn't matter. This is where we come into problems. Now, this is like a generic tier list. If this was a high-level tier list, Ball gets the 2 spot. Easy. There is no reason where Ball doesn't get it if we're looking top tier only. You have to know how to play Ball. And you have to be playing against high-tier meta for Ball to get value. High-tier meta is going to be long-range, DPS characters, one-shot potential, hit scans. Ashe, Hanzo, Widow, Soldier, McCree, Mei. Those type of characters, you're seeing at high-tier. Low-tier, you're going to see Bastion, Junkrat, Torb, Symmetra. They really can fuck up Ball. And not to mention, Ball is not, in my opinion, the best. I'm putting Hog at 2. I'm putting Hog at 2, and 2-3 is very tight. Okay, for me? Here's why. Even at high tier, Hog, hook equals dead. Let's start with that. Hog is basically the Widowmaker of tanks. Hook equals dead at high tier. That is how high tier teams play. Even then in mid tier, Hook equals dead. So that's why I mentioned that. At low tier, Hog is there because he can heal. And for me, that is incredibly important, given the fact that he takes so much pressure off of low to mid-tier supports by, you know what, we don't realistically need another shield tank here. We don't need a Zarya here. It doesn't work. Let's run Hog. We can keep ourselves alive. We can let our supports focus more. I still think his damage output is good. I think the only thing that really holds Hog back, he doesn't really shield the team. He has to use his body to soak up damage, which means he's healing more often, which means he will eventually rely on it. But hook equals dead is the best reason. He's not a great long-range character, but at close range, he's gonna fuck you up. And I still say hook equals dead is the main reason for playing him. Hog to me is number 2. The 3 pick, the one that I have the most time like picking him over, was Zarya, because Zarya works with every other tank in the game. Zarya is that support tank that is designed to help you power up. Zarya is the highest damage per second tank in the game when she gets the full charge. And Zarya also is technically the best tank in the game for keeping another player alive, because you sit there and you bubble yourself and you bubble somebody else and you counter whatever ultimates the enemy team has while powering you up. She's not at a massive disadvantage with range either. Although I still do miss the days when Zarya could it only costs 20 ammo instead of 25. Her ult is should be a guaranteed kill, unless you have like a Zenyatta ult or a Lucio ult, and even then, Lucio ult, he can't be in it. So, there are incredible ways where Zarya gets value. Where Zarya doesn't get value is she is up there with Ball in terms of highest execution to play. And Zarya does not get value at low rank. Like, gold and below, if you have a Zarya player on your team, 9 times out of 10, you don't get value out of that. Because either she doesn't know how to play Zarya and she's playing it because she saw a streamer do it. It's like, I'm gonna rocket jump up to here. Whoops, I'm killing myself. Maybe shouldn't have done that. Or she's playing Zarya, she knows what she's doing, but the rest of the team around her doesn't know. Like, if you have a Rein that, okay, I'm gonna bubble the Rein, and instead, they were just sitting there holding up shields. And so that bubble's wasted, she's not getting charged, the Rein isn't surviving anything out of the ordinary, like, she's one of those high-risk, high-reward characters, but if you have a tank that knows what they're doing, with Zarya, she is a top-tier tank. But it's oftentimes hard to get that value. And if you're going up against a team that knows what they're doing, where they're not shooting into your barriers, or they're just simply not, you're just simply not taking enough damage, you're not getting any value out of Zarya. That's why I have her. Hog gets more value than Zarya does, realistically, because even at high tier, you will get players that just do not know how to play Zarya into you. So now, all the high tier players are saying, well, Ball wasn't number 2, Ball wasn't number 3, he's got to be number 4. And the simple fact is, no, Ball is not going to be number 4. Ball is going to be lower. Orisa to me is 4, and Orisa to me is 4. Orisa is probably the best straight up tank in the game. Orisa is probably the best, I am here to hold this objective style tank. She is the character that if you're being bum rushed, like if the enemy tanks are doing their job effectively and creating all this space and pushing your team, you pull out Orisa and say, no, this shit stops right here. That's her job. And I think because tanks are so powerful in the game right now, I honestly think Orisa's value comes up. Even though Orisa is underpowered, I think Orisa's value goes up, not just because Orisa is the strongest tank per se. I think she synergizes the best with certain DPS and support characters who are meta right now, and the fact that she is just, okay, I'm gonna sit here and fuck you up. She has a shield, it's not a great shield, it's not very strong, but she can just sit behind it for days and just, I'm just gonna sit here and poke you with my damage. I don't have to kill you. I know my damage is gonna get out healed, but by the time you burn through my barrier, I will have another barrier up. Her Fortify lets her shut down most of the other tank abilities in the game that are going to cause your team's problem. Sigma Rock, Rein Charge, Roadhog Hook. You throw up Fortify, and you're basically like, okay, come on, let's go. Because you're out tanking that. And Grab, if you know how to use it here, is great. The issue to me with Grab is I don't think a lot of players know how to use Grab. There's never a bad time for Supercharger in a team fight. The only time it's really bad is when you're not using it in a team fight. I think she's overall well-rounded. She's like she is the point tank cockroach. She's the jack of all trades on point, but the master of none of those. But what she does do is she does shut down Sigma. Like, she shuts down Sigma Ball. And where they're at high tier, they're meta. Then she really becomes that tank that you run to stop that. And at low tier, she can hard carry a game by herself. She also opens up a lot of more cheesy comps that can necessarily win you some games. I think Orisa realistically will give your team more value than Ball until you get to high tier, until you're getting to high diamond, low master, and you have players that know what the fuck they're doing all the time. Until then, Orisa's probably your best bet for countering most other tanks. Now I'm throwing Ball in at number 5. And Ball is so low on the list for a couple reasons. Let's start. Ball is Zarya 2.0, okay? Ball has the problem of being difficult to play for newcomers, right? Anything below gold is not getting value on Ball, okay? In addition to that, Ball is mechanically hard to play. He's a physics-based character who is reliant upon a number of cooldowns. He's reliant upon dead zoning. He's reliant upon being able to space out and control your team. Ball has another main issue that I have that is mostly a low-tier problem, which is the fact that in low tier, you're going to get the Genji one-trick that does absolutely nothing until they pull out Dragon Blade, and then they get a fucking pentakill, fuck up the whole team, and you win off of that. Here's the problem. Ball is the best flank in the game. The 600 health hamster is the best tank in the game, because he's the best flank in the game. What Ball does is very simple. Here's the enemy team comp, right? What Ball does is, oh, hi supports, I'm coming to kill you. Nope, they're starting to damage me, time to go, bye. Yeah, heal me, heal me, heal me, good, good, great, yep, okay. Hi supports, I'm here to kill you, bye-bye. Like, Ball is the best get in, get out. I'm going to distract the enemy backline, I'm going to kill their support, I'm going to kill their DPS, and I'm going to fuck them up, and they're not going to be able to do anything because they're fighting me. Right? That's what Ball does. Ball doesn't help you on point, unless you need to stand there and contest point. Unless you need to go for, okay, I need spinning Ball of Doom here, I need to just spin around, I need to farm my ult charge. Look at me, I'm spinning, I'm contesting, I'm farming ult charge. Yeah, I'm Ball, yay me. Right? That's not how Ball wants to play, but that's an emergency option, right? The problem is, Ball is mechanically hard to play. Ball does not fit a lot of team comps. Ball does not win you games unless he is successfully getting in the backline and taking out Ana's, Widows, Hanzos, Mercies, shit like that. Because of that, Ball is lower on the list. The fact that he is the best character in the game as a flank doesn't mean anything. Because if you're playing a plat game, and you're running Tracer Reaper, why the fuck are you running Ball? You need point pressure. You need to create space for your Tracer Reaper to get in there and do work. This is where Hog gets value. This is where Zarya gets value. And that's why I have them over Ball. And yes, Ball's ult is great for creating space. You know what the problem is? Creating space off an ultimate ability is nice. But only when you're creating space with it. And legitimately, the issue that you have with him is that he has to create that space to get value. And he doesn't create that much space until you get to high tier. He is that character that is like the top tank at high tier. As soon as you take him out of that high tier of gameplay, you lose all value. He drops near the bottom of the list. And that's the reason why I have Orisa, because even then, Orisa can counter him. So even at high tier, Orisa still gets slightly more value in my opinion because she's a counter. Now I'm a Reinhardt main, and it pains me to say this, but Reinhardt is all the way down here at 6. He is the 6th best out of 8 tanks. And it is unfortunately because of 2 reasons, okay? Let's start with, what does Rein do? Well, Rein is very good at suicide. Rein is very good, fuck you, I'm coming to kill you. Rein is very good at the drop the mic style gameplay of, you know what? If you want to sit in the back and you want to pepper me with damage, I'm gonna come charge your backline, suicide, kill myself, but I'm taking you with me. Okay? He does that better than Ball. I will give him that. Even though he is a main tank and that's putting you at a massive disadvantage. And Ryan has the best barrier in the game. He has a large, team-oriented barrier. You put up, you're like, okay, try and stop me now. Right? Here's the issue with Reinhardt. Number 1, look at the problem. This is my range. This is my range limit right here. If you're not in this range limit, you're not doing any damage. Which means you're stuck holding up a shield. Which means if you're in a situation where your shield is down, no one's in range to swing, you know what the problem is? You're not doing anything. You have Fire Strike, which lets you farm your ult. The problem with that is that Fire Strike has a 6-second cooldown. So your only range capability is that. Which means your only other option at that point would be to charge to close distance. You know what the problem with that is? Charge equals death.
Double kill.
He's pretty much undisputed the closer you get. We get in their face and you start bullying them. You know what the problem is? It's very hard to get in your face and start bullying them unless you're already winning. And you might say that, well, Fire Strike is not really a range weapon. It's more designed for farming ult. The issue is that when you farm ult, it doesn't do much. It's a 1-second stun. Which means if you don't have pinpoint coordination with your team to capitalize off that stun, he gets no value. Yes, his shield is the best shield in the game, but the issue is that a few characters can completely negate this. Sombras, Bastions, mostly low-tier characters negate this. So at low tier, the proper way to play Reinhardt, which is I am pushing forward with my team, with my shield, I am creating space, gets punished. And it trains you into, oh, fuck this, I just need to charge in, fuck you up with my hammer. And then when you do get to high-level play because of that, you immediately drop right back down as soon as you hit mid-plat level, because now you don't know how to play with barrier properly. You don't know how to create space with your barrier because you got to that rank by me charge, me swing hammer.
Double kill.
And it becomes a problem in that he's probably the strongest weak tank in the game. If I'm looking at the bottom 3 tanks, which by now you should already know what they are, if I'm saying Ryan is the strongest of them, it's because he is the strongest, but his design is so archaic that he's just power crept by newer tanks. He's power crept by Sigma and Orisa for main tank because of that. He's not the strongest main tank because they have more versatility than he does. So next up we have Winston. And Winston is kind of an odd case study because he was a weak tank who got a buff and then got power crept down back to being a weak tank, in my opinion. You will still get high-level players that sit there and that will say, Winston is a main tank, Winston is a main tank, Winston is a shield tank, and the simple truth of that is he's not. Okay? The changes that they made to Winston's barrier, realistically, over the years, have been just crept down by the changes that they made to DPS. What Winston does is he plays as a slightly easier Ball. That's what Winston is. If you would like to play Ball, and you would like to play Rein, but if you want to play Rein, but you want to play it at a higher tier, you play Winston. If you want to play Ball, but at a slightly lower tier, you play Winston. Why is that? Well, here's what Winston does at low tier. Leap in, damage, 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 drop shields, leap out. Right? That's basically what Ball does. But at low tier. So you get value out of Winston. And at high tier, what does Reinhardt do? Deploy shield, get up in your face from the safety of shield, do lots of damage, shield goes down, retreats. He's a high tier Reinhardt and a low tier Bull. But he doesn't really do either of them that great. First off, his damage up close is great, but his damage is realistically only good for countering characters that can't defend against him. Otherwise, you have to play him like a dive. And he's not best suited for dive at this point. You can jump, melee, damage, stuff like that. He's not suited for that. Other dive characters are better. Ball is better. Sigma's better. Zarya is better. Hog is better. They are better characters at, I want to get up, I want to get in your face, I want to brawl. You could look at his shield, you could say, well, what about his shield? His ult is weak right now. Look at his shield. It's a 13-second cooldown, it's a 700 health. You are better off playing Sigma. His shield gets no value compared to Sigma. Sigma is greater than Winston. And that right there is the problem. And you could say, well, if you're shutting down Sigma, then, you know, that's the case. But the problem for me is, he's just power crap. The changes that they have done aren't great. And you could say, well, what about his ult? His ult is basically a free revive. But his ult just turns him into a lower DPS version of himself. His shield doesn't get value. I mean, if they took the cooldown on his jump down to where he could jump in and out more often, that would be great. Even by a 1 or a 2 second cooldown, that's great. But he's just so... he's so underpowered. At low tier, you don't get much value out of him because you're going to run into Bastion comps. And at high tier, he gets no value because you run into Sigma. So that's why he's 7. And at 8 is Diva. And Diva's here because Diva doesn't do anything.
I'm going to win.
Think about it. What is... to me, Diva has 2 things going for her. Defense Matrix and Bomb. And that's it. Diva's output at long range is pathetic. Makes sense. Diva's output at close range is alright. You know what's better close range output? Reinhardt. Winston. Zarya. Roadhog. So you're not playing Diva for damage. Micro Missiles is great. It's on an 8-second cooldown. What Diva does effectively is she is a fallback character. She's a character that you can use to, okay, I'm up in the front dealing damage. Now there's a Genji bullying my Ana. I'm going to come back and give you a hand. Right? Yes, you can defense matrix for your team, but unless you're sucking up grabs and Hanzo ults and Moira ult or Moira balls and shit like that, she's not getting a lot of value. Yes, you have ult.
Nerf this.
Ult is great team wipe. You know what the problem with the ult is?
Suiting up.
A lot of players know how to play around it these days. Unless you're setting it up with like Sombra EMP, you're not getting value. Diva doesn't get value. If you want to dive with Diva and say, fuck you, I'm coming in, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna fuck you up, you're better off playing Winston Ball. If you're using her to negate, like, say, Zarya and Moira and things like that, you're better off running Orisa. If you're playing her to support your backline, you're better off playing, you know, a different character. You're better off playing Orisa. You're better off playing Sigma. There's no real value to me that Diva gets. There's nothing unique about Diva anymore that she and she alone gets. And I think that puts her in an awkward position right now when it comes to tanks. So you have Sigma as the clear number 1. I mean, you can go either or between Hog for 2, Zarya for 3. I mean, the higher up you go, the more you're going to get Zarya. The lower you go, the more you're going to get Hog. But I think at mid-tier, Hog wins over Zarya, which is why I have him there. Orisa, because she's basically the tank counter. Then Ball, because as good as he is as high tier, he's just that bad at low tier. Then Rein, who kind of is good bad, right? He's just outdated, unfortunately. And then Winston, because he got power crept. And then Diva, because she's completely outmatched by all the other tanks. So, there's my tank guide for the year. You know, you're probably gonna tell me how wrong it is, but, I mean, that's what I'm going with.